Today in Formula One, McLaren step on a crack and break a mirror. Red Bulls have duels for fastest lap. Stroll gets strolled by his car. Welcome back, Sebastian here. So, Saudi Arabian Grand Prix just finished. So pretty decent race, I thought. Not super chaotic or spectacular like we were exciting, but still pretty good race. I think probably a bit better than last weekend in Bahrain. So let's get started. So Perez on pole, Alonso alongside on the front row, everyone on medium tires except for Hamilton on hards, Leclerc on softs, and Sargent also on hards. First lap, Alonso takes the lead at turn 1, Perez P2. Piastri gets some really light contact with Gasly, and he damages his front wing. Stroll goes around the outside of turn 13 to overtake Carlos Sainz for P4. At this point, Verstappen P15 and Leclerc P9. Piastri pits. Lap 2, Alonso. It was announced that Alonso was under investigation for incorrect starting position. So they showed the onboard, and basically he was a little bit too far left in his starting box. So very similar to what Ocon did last race in Bahrain. And he was under investigation for this. So the commentators noted that in the dry, this doesn't really make a difference, but it does make a difference in the wet, where you might have a dry line and a wet line. So at the same time, it's quite quite a strict rule, and a bit unfortunate for Alonso, but it is his mistake. So announced that lap, 5-second penalty for Alonso for that. End of second lap, Verstappen P13, Leclerc P9. So Verstappen gets two positions in that lap. We didn't see them on TV, but he got them done. Lap 3, Norris pits. So the commentators know this at the first lap, but basically it seems like after Piastri broke his front wing and had to come in for a new one, Piastri, that debris basically went flying through the field and it hit Norris's car. I don't know if it gave him a puncture or broke his front wing, but basically Norris had to pit as well. Lap 4, Perez goes down the inside a bit deep but stays on track and overtakes Fernando Alonso for P1. So Alonso P2, Perez P1, and takes the lead again. Lap 5, McLaren's are 21 seconds off the back. So obviously not really awful start to the start of the race for McLaren, not really their fault. Very light contact, really racing incident, and then the debris hitting the other car. Very unfortunate, unlucky for them. Verstappen 12 seconds off the lead at this point. Lap 7, Leclerc overtakes Gasly for P8 at turn 1. Lap 8, Verstappen overtakes Stroll for P10 at turn 1. Hamilton at this point was noted for weaving on the straight and he was under investigation. He was eventually given a black and white flag, so if he does anything like that again, he'll get a penalty, but he didn't. That lap, Leclerc overtakes Hamilton for P7 at turn 1. Lap 9, Magnussen pits for hards, so some of the pit stops starting now at this point. Lap 10, Verstappen overtakes Gasly for P9 at turn 27. Bottas pits for hards. Lap 11, over team radio, a bunch of teams are saying that the hards are not as good as expected. So that was interesting to hear. So it seems like the mediums may have been the preferred race tire, even though it didn't seem that they were degrading as quickly as they should have maybe. So I'm surprised that more teams just didn't go as far as possible with those hards. Let's see. So lap 12, Verstappen overtakes Hamilton P8 for P8 at turn 1. Zhou and Hülkenberg both pit for hards. At this point, Verstappen was 18 seconds off the lead, so off his teammate Sergio Perez. Lap 13, Leclerc overtakes Ocon, P6 for P6 at turn 1. Stroll pits for hards, comes out 11th place. So he basically tries to undercut Sainz. Sainz wanted to undercut Stroll, but and they said this on the team radio, but to prevent this, Stroll goes in first to make sure that that doesn't happen. So lap 14, Verstappen overtakes Ocon for P6 at turn 1. Lap 15, Gasly pits for hard. Lap 16, Sainz pits for hards and overcuts Stroll. So it comes out ahead of Stroll. So Stroll did not have a great couple laps on opening laps on his hard tires. Lap 17, Leclerc pits for hards and so does Ocon, and Leclerc comes out ahead of Stroll. So Stroll gets overcut by both Ferraris. Lap 18, Stroll stops on track. Seems like it may have been an engine problem of some kind. Basically, he just stops the car at turn 13, and he does a really good job of getting it, putting it kind of through the halfway through the escape road. However, the safety car is deployed, so commentators were really surprised by this and thought it should have been a BSC, which I kind of agree. The car was already halfway through the Marshall posts in the gap in the wall, and they didn't really need it, but I guess they did it anyway. And this really hurt Ferrari, but it also hurt leader Sergio Perez, because now his 20-second gap that he had over his teammate Verstappen reduced basically to 5 or 6 seconds at the end of the safety car period. So Perez, Alonso, Russell, Verstappen, Hamilton, as well as many others pit for new tires. Lap 20, Tsunoda, I noted, also benefits. He seemed to jump up quite a few spots from where he was before. So the safety car comes in, lap 20. Gasly, Ocon, wheel-to-wheel, turn 1, no contact there. Lap 22, Hamilton passes Sainz for P5 at turn 3. So Hamilton with quite a bit of good pace on his medium tires. Lap 23, Verstappen overtakes Russell for turn 27 for P3. Ocon overtakes Tsunoda for P9 at turn 1. Lap 25, Verstappen overtakes Alonso for P2 at turn 1. Lap 27, Albon comes on the radio saying he has a brake failure. It seemed like it was a mechanical problem, but it wasn't like the brakes themselves didn't fail, but the system that powers the brakes, the brake-by-wire system, seemed to be having issues because it wasn't a straight brake failure. Kind of like Vettel at Monza 2020, where that image of him basically just sailing through the brake boards. It wasn't like that, but it was basically an intermittent issue that he couldn't deal with. So he slows down, kind of does a lap to see if he can fix the issue, but comes in the pits, lap 29, and retires. Lap 30, Hülkenberg and Sargent wheel-to-wheel through turns 2 and 3, so that was good. Lap 32, Verstappen and Perez trading fastest laps. Lap 34, Leclerc was very frustrated on the radio. So basically what happened was Leclerc basically kept this good gap behind him, in front of him, to Hamilton, who was ahead during the safety car. Leclerc didn't know that Hamilton was going to pit, and basically Hamilton pits and then stays ahead of Leclerc. If Leclerc had gone up right behind Hamilton, he would have come up behind him. So Leclerc was very unhappy with his race engineer about that, and I kind of agree. It was probably a bit of a strategic error on their part not to have Leclerc not to tell Leclerc to go right behind Hamilton. Well, let's see. Okay, many teams lying astern. So at this point, it seems like cars had really settled out to their order race pace wise. So all the teammates were very close together. And yeah, it was kind of really just clean sailing for the rest of the race for many of the drivers. Lap 36, Bottas pits for soft tires to try to do something. He was having a really poor race overall, so just pit for soft tires to try to do something different. Lap 38, Verstappen drops over 5 seconds over the 5-second barrier, so he was reporting issues on the radio. Zhou overtakes Sargent for P13 at turn 1. And then lap 40, possible reliability issues on both Red Bulls. Verstappen was complaining about his drive shaft, and Perez was complaining about his brake feeling a bit long. So it was a bit tense there for a bit, because it was possible that, not one, but both Red Bulls might have reliability problems. Good racing between Magnussen and Tsunoda continues. Lap 42, De Vries overtakes Sargent at turn 27 for P14. Norris has a look into turn 1, but doesn't go for it. Lap 46, Magnussen overtakes Tsunoda for P10 at turn 1. Very frustrated on the radio afterwards, Tsunoda was. Both lock up, but Magnussen stays ahead, making that move. So it was a good move there by Magnussen. Lap 14, Piastri overtakes Norris at turn 1 for P16. Good move there for Piastri. McLaren think Alonso still needs to serve his 5-second penalty, but both the commentators and the Aston Martin strategy team, or Alonso's engineer, said that he should be okay. So final lap, Perez takes the flag, and Verstappen takes fastest lap to keep the championship lead. So he had said on the radio right before, he'd asked what was the fastest lap, because he probably knew Perez had it, and he wanted to know what it was, so he knew how fast he had to go, but the team wouldn't tell him, probably for political reasons. But he just goes for it and takes fastest lap anyway. Always the competitive one, Max Verstappen. During the podium, they announced that Alonso was under investigation for serving the penalty incorrectly. As of recording of this video, nothing's been noted, so I'm still gonna report it as they cross the line. But it's possible he gets a 10-second penalty, 5-second penalty, which would drop him down quite a way down the order. So we'll just have to wait and see. If something comes out when I'm uploading the video, I will put a note in the description, or I'll put a pin a comment. So final classification: Perez first, Verstappen second, Alonso third, Russell fourth, Hamilton fifth, Sainz sixth, Leclerc seventh, Ocon eighth, Gasly ninth, Magnussen 10th, Tsunoda 11th, Hulkenberg 12th, Zhou 13th, De Vries 14th, Piastri 15th, Sargent 16th, Norris 17th, 18th Bottas, and the two retirements are Albon and Stroll. So your championship standings are Verstappen first, 44 points, Perez second, 43 points, Alonso third, 30 points. Of course, that's also still tentative. Fourth, Sainz 20 points, Hamilton fifth, 20 points, Russell sixth, 18 points. Stroll drops down to 7th with 8 points. Leclerc gets first points on the board, 6 points in 8th place. Bottas 9th with 4 points. 10th Ocon with 4 points. Gasly also with 4 points in 11th. Magnussen and Albon each with 1 point respectively in 12th and 13th. And then 14th Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, 15th Hulkenberg, 16th Sargent, 17th Zhou, 18th De Vries, 19th Piastri, and 20 Norris, all with 0 points. Your constructor standings are Red Bull with first with 87 points, Aston Martin and Mercedes tied with 38 points, but Aston ahead on countback. Ferrari fourth with 26 points, Alpine fifth with 8 points, Alfa Romeo sixth with 4 points, Haas and Williams both with 1 point, but Haas ahead on tiebreak, countback, and AlphaTauri and McLaren still at 0. So overall, pretty good race, pretty exciting race overall. Now we have a 2-week break until next race in Australia, a very different circuit again in Australia, but should be an exciting one. So that's all for today's video. Please like if you enjoyed it, please leave your thoughts down below in the comment section, and please subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.